There are only a handful of mysteries in this world that simply cannot be explained. Most people like to believe that even the most impossible of puzzles can be solved given time, but that's not always the case. Take these 10 mysteries, for example. They have remained unsolved for decades, if not longer, mystifying experts and baffling all who encounter them. Here are 10 creepy mysteries that may never be solved. Stay until the end for a bonus. 10. Stephan Michalak. On May 20, 1967, Stephan Michalak was in the woods near Falcon Lake, Manitoba, Canada when he saw two cigar-shaped UFOs land close by. When a door on one of the crafts opened, Michalak heard voices, and then tried to communicate with the beings inside. He approached the door of the craft, but couldn't make out anything inside except for what he described to be a maze of lights. Suddenly, the aircraft's door closed, and the object began to rise. It then expelled some sort of hot air at Michalak through a grid-like vent that caused his shirt to erupt in flames. At a local hospital, doctors were puzzled by the grided burn pattern all across Michalak's chest, which you can see in the photo above. 9. Frederick Valentich. On October 21, 1978, Frederick Valentich left Melbourne, Australia to begin a 125-mile training flight to Kings Island. He was flying a single-engine Cessna. At just after 7:06 p.m. Valentich made radio contact with air traffic controllers to inquire if there were any other aircraft known to be flying in the area. The answer from Melbourne was no, an answer that was confirmed again during the odd communication that followed. 7 minutes later all radio contact was lost and Valentich was never heard from again. During the puzzling exchange with air traffic control, Valentich claimed he saw something flying near him. When asked if he could confirm that it was an aircraft, he said that he could not, a statement that he repeated several times. He described the object as having at least 4 lights and 1 green light. He also said it was an elongated cigar-shaped craft which was all shiny on the outside. Interestingly, there were numerous UFO or strange light sightings in the Kings Island and the Bay Strait area on the night that Frederick Valentich disappeared. The last words that air traffic controllers officially heard Frederick Valentich speak were, "It is not an aircraft." Extensive searches for the pilot were conducted but no sign of Frederick or the Cessna was ever found. 8. Brayman road attacker. On August 22, 1988, social worker Carol was on her way to work at the local psychiatric hospital in Putnam, Connecticut. As she drove along Brayman Hollow Road, the driver of a black pickup truck in front of her started behaving erratically. He would abruptly brake after speeding up and cross the center line, almost scraping the sides of oncoming cars. Carol stayed behind the truck, at a safe distance, but no one could have predicted the horror that would follow. The driver of the pickup suddenly stopped in the middle of the road, pulled out a gun and walked towards Carol's vehicle that had come to a stop as well. The man halted 10 feet from Carol and then shot her in the face. He jumped back into his truck and sped off, leaving Carol semi-conscious and partially paralyzed. A few minutes passed without anyone noticing Carol slumped behind her steering wheel. A utility truck passed by and its driver saw the strange angle at which Carol was positioned in her car, after which he immediately called the police and paramedics. Doctors fought to save Carol after she arrived at the hospital. Her carotid artery was severed, and her face torn apart. Miraculously, Carol survived, and she physically recovered well from the trauma. Her attacker was never found, however, even after more reports emerged of a driver in a black pickup, taunting motorists on the Brayman Hollow Road. Witnesses reported that the driver was a white male, with curly brown hair, average build and would be middle-aged today. The pickup was a step side with flared fenders. 7. The Lover's Lane Murders. The Lover's Lane murders took place in an undeveloped, wooded area of West Houston on the night of August 23, 1990. That night, 22-year-old Cheryl Henry and her 21-year-old boyfriend Andy Atkinson parked in a deserted spot popular with young couples in the area. Law enforcement found the couple's car at the scene, with their bodies in the woods close by. Both of their necks sustained damage, and Cheryl had been sexually assaulted. The unknown assailant had attempted to bury her under a woodpile, and Andy was found bound to a tree. In 2008, forensic investigators analyzed a semen sample taken from Henry in 1990 and matched it to another unsolved rape case. The woman provided officers with a description of her attacker. Although there have been no arrests, Houston authorities have a sketch of the suspected killer. 6. The Imposter. 13-year-old Nicholas Barkley was a troubled teenager and was scheduled for a court hearing on June 14, 1994 that would have determined whether his future included a home for juvenile delinquents. When he disappeared on June 13, 1994, his family immediately assumed he had run away to avoid the court hearing. 3 years later, Police from Spain contacted San Antonio authorities to let them know they had found Nicholas after he escaped from a military child sex trafficking ring. Nicholas' sister, Carrie, set off for Spain and positively identified him, even though the person claiming to her brother had brown hair and eyes compared to Nicholas's blonde hair and blue eyes. Also, he had a strong French accent which could not be said of Nicholas Barkley. Nevertheless, the Barkley family accepted the young man and all his explanations for his physical differences. They even told the local police to close the case. Detective Charlie Parker wasn't convinced, and he eventually got the imposter to admit that his real name was Frederick Valentich and that he was a fugitive on the run from Interpol. This was after Valentich had invaded the Barkley family home for 5 months. Valentich was sent to prison for 6 years. Nicholas Barkley was never found, and it remains unclear whether he is still alive. 5. The lead masks case. Dead bodies of 2 repairmen, Miguel Jose Viana and Manuel Pereira de Cruz, were found by a teenager in August 1966. Both men were wearing identical impermeable suits and Lita masks with no holes. There are multiple theories surrounding this case. One of the popular one is that these 2 men were members of a group of scientific spiritualists who were apparently attempting to contact extraterrestrials or spirits using psychedelic drugs and died from an overdose. 4. The Big Gray Man. The Big Grey Man is an inhuman creature that is said to haunt the summit and passes of the second highest peak in Scotland, Ben Macdui. Like the Yeti of the Himalayas and Bigfoot of the American Pacific Northwest, the Big Grey Man has been seen by few eyewitnesses. What makes the Big Grey Man particularly frightening is that his physical characteristics don't resemble that of a bear, and thus sightings can't be dismissed as bear sightings. Those who have seen the Big Grey Man describe it as extremely tall, over 10 feet, and human-like, with short hair, broad shoulders, and long arms. Nearly all reports of sightings include the sound of gravel crunching beneath footfalls. Scientists haven't been able to come up with an explanation for the sightings and the accompanying sounds, although psychologists have proposed that those who have supposedly seen and heard the Big Grey Man have been in a state of physical and mental anguish brought on by exhaustion or isolation. For now, the Big Grey Man remains a mystery, but if you go to Scotland, let us know if you run into the Big Grey Man. 3. The Man Who Vanished into Thin Air. Author and war hero Ambrose Bierce is probably more famous for his disappearance than his writing. In 1913, Bierce wrote to friends that he was traveling to Mexico with a pretty definite purpose which is not at present disclosable, then vanished off the face of the earth. The logical explanation is that he ran afoul of soldiers in the Mexican Revolution. However, prior to this trip, Bierce had been researching strange and bizarre disappearances. One such case was that of Charles Ashmore. The story goes that in 1878, Ashmore left the family farmhouse near Quincy, Illinois, to go fetch fresh water from the spring a short distance away. When he did not return, his family went in search of the boy. A new snow had just fallen and Charles' footprints were plainly visible as they went out the back door and started across the yard. His father followed his trail for a short distance, but after going about 75 yards, he saw that the trail abruptly ended. Beyond the last footprint was nothing other than smooth, unbroken snow. The boy's tracks simply came to an end, vanishing without a trace. Bierce theorized that people could fall into dimensional holes and be trapped forever, suspended between life and death. Is this what happened to Bierce? Did he prophesize his own fate? Nobody knows, and to this day his disappearance remains a puzzling mystery. 2. The Orchard Apartment Murders. On July 27, 1979, one of Alice Rankin's co-workers went to pick her up from her Orchard Apartments home in southwest Houston. The co-worker, Bob Smith, arrived to find the door slightly ajar. When he entered, he found 33-year-old Rankin lying in her bed, disrobed, feet tied together, and with a pillow over her upper body. When he removed the pillow, he saw her head had been cut off. She had also been sexually assaulted. Police have never recovered her missing head. 2 weeks later, and 2 floors above Rankin, a friend found the body of 25-year-old Mary Michael Calcutta in her bathroom. She had been stabbed multiple times, so hard that the knife blade bent. The working theory is that these were just 2 of potentially many victims of an unidentified serial killer. 1. Just give us the answer. On the grounds of the Central Intelligence Agency in Virginia, there is an impressive sculpture that was created by artist Jim Sanborn. The sculpture bears 4 coded messages and all but one have been decoded. Although many people have tried to decode it, none have done so. The artist mentioned that the other 3 solved messages hold clues for the 4th one and even hinted that the message could be related to a clock in Berlin. While those attempting to solve the puzzle were excited for the clue at first, their bubbles were quickly busted when they couldn't find the connection. Who will solve the secret code, and is there really any reason to solve it other than for fun? And here's a little bonus for you. The Tunguska event. On the morning of June 30, 1908, 770 square miles of forest in Siberia, Russia were flattened by what would have appeared to have been an explosion, except that there were no witnesses and no other evidence. The phenomenon, known as the Tunguska event, has been classified by scientists as the largest impact event, which means a recordable impact between two astronomical objects, such as an asteroid and the Earth, in recorded history. Yet no impact crater has ever been found, which would be an important earmark of an impact event. Thus, scientists can only surmise what may have happened, which may be that an asteroid exploded over the Earth, and the destruction that ensued beneath it in Siberia was the result of after effects. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Which of these mysteries would you like to see solved in the future? Hope these mysteries will be explained someday. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, so you don't miss out on my future videos. See you in the following video.